Senator Menéndez, what purpose?
Mr. President, to ask questions of the author.
Do you yield?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator King. Senator King, I heard your bill layout, and in your layout, I heard you say your opening phrase, when I began this process. I was just curious, when did you begin this process? Because we had a redistricting committee during session, but I never heard anything about a redistricting of maps at all during session. So when did you come up with the thought or the idea of filing a new map?
When a couple of weeks or so before, maybe a week or so before the first special session, I got a call from the Lieutenant Governor asking if I would be willing to chair the redistricting committee.
Okay. So you mentioned that you believe in your heart that you believe this map is drawn race blind?
Yes.
Okay. And you've said that you have not looked at any race data with respect to this map, correct?
Correct.
So to that end, if I hear what you're telling me, the map then does it take any race data into account?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to watch any of the House proceedings or been present at any of the times that Chairman Hunter has spoken about the map?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes. Have you had any opportunity to watch any of the House proceedings or any of the times when Chairman Hunter has been describing the map?
Very little.
Very little. Okay, very good. Well, then you must be aware that each time Chairman Hunter has laid out the map, he has listed specific districts and the race population for those districts. So I'm not sure, were you aware of that? Were you able to watch that part of his delivery?
I've actually watched very little of the House hearings.
All right. So if you missed when Chairman Hunter listed the specific districts and the race population for those districts, to me, even though you've been adamant that you have not looked at race data, why is that? Why have you not, if Chairman Hunter's talked about race data, why have you not looked at race data?
Well, because it's problematic and confusing under the law, and it's very complex as to how such data applies in redistricting. It's very simple and very well established in law that you can draw maps on a partisan basis. And so we've looked at this from a partisan basis. It's my understanding that that's the basis from which it was drawn, and it performs in a manner that should improve, should be an improvement for Republican candidates.
When you say it's problematic with the law, which law are we referring to?
Well, there's a host of redistricting law. I've got, one little brief here that's just a summary of, we've had 30 years of cases, and I've gone through several redistricting cycles, and you have as well, and we have an ongoing trial in El Paso, and it's just a complex, very robust area of law.
Would any of those be the Voting Rights Act?
Voting Rights Act is always a consideration.
Very good. Does it concern you then that Chairman Hunter has focused so closely on the race data in his discussions of this very bill, House Bill 4?
I am only concerned with what's before the Senate and in my authorship or sponsorship of the bill.
So knowing that the Voting Rights Act can be, in your terms, your words, problematic, why does it not concern you that Chairman Hunter has been bringing up race when he's describing these districts?
I'm not aware whether he has or not, but from my perspective, why would I use racial data? Voting history is just much more accurate and is well established as a legal way to draw maps, a legal process upon which to base maps.
Okay. So you mentioned that you didn't draw this map, or these maps, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so then whoever drew these maps, do we know if they used any racial shading on the computer at any point? Are you aware of that?
So again, I don't know, I don't have any personal knowledge as to who drew the changes between HB 4 as it was introduced in this special session and HB 4 as it was passed out of the House, because there were some changes.
Correct. And I guess what I'm trying to find out is what analysis was made during the map drawing process to determine voter preferences, as you've mentioned, you mentioned the partisan preferences, but also by racial group. That's what I'm trying to figure out, what analysis was made.
All I can tell you is that I very specifically asked our legal counsel to run jingles and the other analyses that are used to determine if a map complies with the VRA, constitutional and other requirements. And I have been well assured that this map complies with the VRA in all respects, as well as all other applicable law.
So I appreciate that. So you're telling me that the legal counsel that did know who drew these maps, that you asked them run an analysis through the Voter Rights Act, through jingles, and tell me that they're legal. Did they tell you which districts race was taken into account to make sure that they're legal?
I was only presented with their conclusion, not any underlying data, whatever that may have involved.
Understood. So we know race was taken into account to make it legal. We know, I'm just curious, because you're confident that you believe that these districts were presented to you after having been analyzed. I'm curious, how was race taken into account in the drafting? Do you know how the race was taken into account?
All I can tell you is that every map I have looked at, and I haven't drawn a single map, I have in years past, but I have not had anything to do. I have not drawn any map during this process.
Okay.
What I have done is the maps that have been presented to me for consideration before I even looked at them.
Right.
I turned them over to counsel and I said, take it, give it a good legal scrubbing, and bring me back your conclusions.
Okay. So the current existing congressional maps, the ones that were drawn in 2021, did you consider districts that were currently protected by the Voting Rights Act when this new map was drawn? Did you say, hey, these are protected, make sure they stay protected when the drawing of this map? Did you all ask that?
My instructions were that I would not bring a map before the committee, and certainly not before this body, until I was told that it was legal in all respects.
Do you believe that there's racially polarized voting in Texas?
I'm not sure I'm even qualified to comment on that. I'm familiar with some of the prior case determinations that have been made in previous years. I don't know what the state of voting is today. I just know that the map that is before us today is legal with regard to the VRA and other applicable law.
Did you do any analysis or review of whether voting is racially polarized in Texas before, during, or after the drawing of this map?
I have not personally done any analysis.
Okay. Do you know which districts in this new map, in the map that you've laid before us in this Plan C 2333, you know which districts are located in areas that have any polarized voting, racially polarized voting?
I think the map speaks for itself in terms of its geographic boundaries. I have not personally made any analysis that you've referenced. All I can tell you is that I have been assured that this map does not violate the VRA or any other applicable law.
What analysis of Latino voters' preferences were conducted before drafting any of the districts in this plan?
Well, I'm confident for each district there was a jingles type analysis. There are other things that are done, regression analysis and others. I'm not familiar with all of those. What I did, because I'm not an expert on either the statistician side or the legal side, was I hired a law firm, engaged a law firm that has decades of experience and that I could have a lot of confidence in. And I asked them to scrub each map I considered beforehand.
You mentioned they presented you a report, that they said that they presented you a report because you asked them to make sure to scrub it using Jingles, Voters' Rights Act. Do you know what elections they looked at?
Not specifically. I just made sure that I have the highest confidence that they did a very thorough analysis.
Do you know what kind of election analysis they conducted?
Not specifically.
Last two questions. Which Latino majority districts in the 2021 maps, the ones we currently have today, do you consider to be protected under the Voter Rights Act?
I don't have an opinion on that.
You don't know which ones are currently protected so that you can make sure these are legal?
Again, I have intentionally not looked at any racial data. I've tried to just focus on political performance.
Okay. And since you believe that these maps that you have before us are legal, could you please name the districts in this new map that are required by the Federal Voting Rights Act? So if these are legal, which one of the districts in here are going to be required to be protected under the Voter Rights Act? Can you tell us which ones?
No.
So I'm sorry, this is my last question. You mentioned that this is a compact, improves compactness, right?
Yes.
And as I look at this, it strikes me as odd, and I wonder why, if you could tell me why. Almost all of it seems that many of the rural districts are somewhat uniformly in shape, but when you get to the urban districts of Bear and Tarrant and Dallas and Travis, they seem to be, and Harris for sure, they seem to be carved up. As you look at the colors, they look like a bowl of something you'd get at Chipotle or something. They're just, why is it that Travis has got districts that you said compact, but yet you go from Travis down to the coast to Aransas Pass? How is that compact?
Well, within the urban areas, it's generally a factor of population density.
Population density. And what?
Let me finish.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It also gets into efforts to try to, where you can, hold communities of interest together. And of course, contiguity, every district has to continue, they can't be broken. But the other part of it is that, and our Senate districts are examples of that as well, but when you have to get, in this case, 766,000 people into 38 districts, and so many of our counties have only 5 or 10 or 20,000 in population, it is very common, in fact, it is unavoidable, that you just have to reach into urban areas, take population, and then reach out and pull in a bunch of rural and suburban counties to be able to balance out that one person, one vote. And that's why, and frankly, it's a lot easier to draw in a county like one of mine that has 4,000 people. It's very easy to draw that whole county into one district. It's much more complex when you have a dense urban area.
You've been a legislator for a long time, isn't that correct? Many years?
This I guess, is my 27th.
27 years. And so we've been through redistricting many times. You mentioned that, correct, right?
Yes, you and I both.
And isn't it true, because through all of the districting, that the overwhelming majority of racial minorities live in these same urban counties that you've cut up in little strips in this map? Isn't that true? I mean, it is true. I mean, it's just population. That's where they live.
Again, I haven't looked at any racial data, but I would just say off the top of my head, South Texas has a lot of rural areas that are heavily Hispanic in population. That's just common.
Right, but I was just asking about the urban counties that have been cut into little strips.
Again, I haven't looked at any racial data.
Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.